here today with Greta, and Greta is an agility dog, and she has a long history of great stuff.
And Greta's a really good example that we can talk about some compensations that these guys make and the importance of us understanding movement and how the more we understand how these guys move and how their body moves,
the better we're able to help them do their job. Because remember that these are dogs, and when they learn a task, they're oftentimes a very high drive dog. They want to go do it even when they're not asked to do it.
And one of the questions that I asked her is, Mom, before we started filming this segment was how's Greta doing? And she says, well, she's doing a lot better. Her back end doesn't seem as sore as it used to be, but she still doesn't swim the weave poles. She hops the weave poles, which isn't fine as long as she's making it through the weave poles. She's not refusing, and her times are okay. And then I asked, well, what lead does Greta enter the weave poles in? And she's had to think, and she said, well, I think the left, but I really don't pay attention. We always come in at this angle. When we're running an agility course, we need to remember that our body position as a handler and the difference between here and here doesn't look like a lot to us, but that could be enough for Greta to make her change leads.
Remember that this is a part that I don't think everybody knows, is that because they are four-legged, they will sometimes lead with or use the right front more predominantly. That's the first leg that goes in a gait. And sometimes they will use the left leg predominantly. As bipeds, we don't really do that, or we don't really notice it unless you're marching in a band or marching in the military. But these guys do it every day.
And the thing about a lead is that if we're in a right lead, the left rear leg does all the work. And if we're in the left lead, the right rear does most of the work.
Because it goes as a diagonal across the dog. However, this changes how we can turn.
And one thing that we notice, if we enter the weave poles, and I know my cameraman's going to have a fit right now, but I'm going to run over here, and I'm going to grab this little marker that he had, and we're going to use this as a weave pole. And when we enter the weave, we're always going to enter on the left side. If we enter on the left lead, if Greta enters on the left lead, okay, it's very easy for her to swim the weave poles. If we enter in the right lead or the incorrect lead, look how far away my body moves from this weave, from this pole. Just doing that makes my body move away. And the further down, and we have some video to prove it, and we'll show you a couple stills right now. Let's go ahead and insert those. And you can see in the two stills, the dog is really close
to the weave
poles. And in the other one, his body gets further away. And the further we go down the weave poles, the further the dog's body gets away from the weave poles, and we start putting stress. We put stress in the middle of the back, because instead of going nice and straight, we're having this turn.
The body has to turn more.
So we're putting a lot of pressure here. As the dog gets further away from the weave poles, the stifles, or the knees, instead of being able to push right straight down, are starting to get a torque on them. So instead of pushing straight like this, they're starting to have to push like this and twist. Okay, look at that instability, and we're putting pressure on that joint.
That looks unnatural and dangerous.
And when we put pressure on that knee, then we're starting to the opposite shoulder, okay? So if it was the left knee the opposite shoulder will start to push out and twist out, okay? And the elbow. So just by entering the weave pole in the incorrect lead, we can increase the stresses on the front end, the middle of the dog, and the back end of the dog, leading us to more chance of injuries and decreasing the longevity of our athletes, of our canine companions. So this is why it's so important that we understand how these dogs move, and why the more that we learn about the movement,
the more we can maintain their long life and long career as an effective athlete.